Welcome to From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing the challenges and providing tips for women in tech leadership. Hi, I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and in each episode, we'll hear from other successful women in tech, sharing their stories, insights, and advice. Join us as we empower each other to reach our full potential in the tech industry. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And today we are going to talk about resetting your tech career. And I'm excited to have here Laurie Swanson. And Laurie has an incredibly impressive journey. She has started as a software engineer, moved to recruiting, started a recruiting firm, a multi-million-dollar recruiting team, and then moved to coaching career for women. So hi, Laurie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you so much for having me, Limor. It's been really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. So tell me, Laurie, kind of maybe you can share a little bit about your background, how you started.
Yeah, like you said, so graduated from college with a degree in business with an emphasis on information technology and which led me to computer programming. So I was a software development engineer for a small software firm. And we were a startup that started to lose their funding, and I was part of a layoff. But I always look at that layoff as a real sort of treasure, because it gave me the opportunity to really consider, did I want to keep moving forward with software development? It just really wasn't feeling like that much fun, to tell you the truth. I wasn't enjoying it, and it could have been a factor of the culture. And, I don't really know. But at that time, I basically said, I don't want to throw technology out. I want to keep my, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, keep my technology at the forefront of my career, but move into a more, I guess I would say, people-facing, which led me into recruiting. So I began recruiting software engineers, and then I decided that I wanted to, so I had written software, then I was recruiting software engineers, and I made the decision that I wanted to sell software. So I moved to a large software firm. I was their top rep and having good success, but I have to say, I really miss the relationship that comes with recruiting. Not only relationships with the hiring managers and the HR folks, but with the people who are in some sort of a career transformation, some sort of a career change, either by circumstance, like I was because of a layoff or a downsizing or a company relocation, or even being fired in some cases, or by choice, because where they were, for whatever reasons, was no longer serving them. And I would say that was the thing that drew me back into recruiting, and I started my own recruiting firm so that I could feel that sense of service that comes with helping someone who's not feeling great about where they're at in their career land in a place that really fits them well and serves their family. And I think that's the thing about recruiting is often, you get a lot of calls from recruiter. If you're in the tech industry, you'll get lots and lots of calls. Yeah. But if you find the right recruiter, this person can serve you as you build your career for your whole career, the right recruiter. And that's kind of who I wanted to be. And then, kids and different things like that, life has a certain cadence to it, ebbs and flows. And at some point I was burnt out on recruiting. Like, my kids were starting to get a little bit older. Then I started to think about what's next for me. And I really created my own career reset by taking a step back and saying, what do I love about what I'm doing now? What don't I love? What do I want to do differently? What do I want to bring with me? And all of these things that led me to getting certified as a coach. And now what I, support my coaching clients through is this idea of resetting your career so that it aligns more fully with who you are today. Because we get into it and we're a certain person and we can be really energized and excited like I was for my recruiting business. But then things change. Life is moving forward. Things that were important to us aren't as important. So now I get to help people really take a step back and realign with who they are today, what they love, what they want to do next, how they want to serve, because I do believe your career, your work is your form of service. Mm-hmm. And so how do you want to, not only serve, the corporate America, but serve yourself too?
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you usually see, at which stage usually, women, we're talking here about women, kind of reach the point that they think that maybe something is not working as they want. Maybe something needs to be changed.
Yeah, there's no, like for me, I was a year into my software development career when I got laid off, and the career reset happened then. And then again, it happened again when I went into software sales, and then it happened again when I became an entrepreneur. And now still an entrepreneur, but, a new business as a coach. So I think you can reset several times along the way. I have a quiz on my website called the 4 Stages of Career Change. And stage 1 is really this disruption. And so you can be disrupted at any point in your career through, like I said, through a layoff or through a partner's relocation that disrupts your career, through having kids can be disruptive, through aging parents can be disruptive, especially for women in tech. And so there's different points that I think, a person, it could be very early in their career when they realize, like I did, that what I thought I was going to do is not really what I wanted to do. Or it could be, after you reach a certain point or something else is disrupting your life in such a way that it causes you to rethink what you want to do. So, but that all being said, I would say that I usually, like my clients are kind of 3-4 years into their career or approaching maybe 5 to 10 years out from retirement and thinking about, okay, who do I want to be as I start to put an end to my corporate career? What does that mean for my future? And some of them might become speakers. A career reset can look like anything, really. You can become an entrepreneur. You can become a speaker on stage. You can join a paid board, get a paid board seat. We work through all those things. Or you could decide that it's time to join a startup just for fun, right? All of those things. So
absolutely. And what would you say, other than some kind of disruption, are other signs that maybe you need to take a step back and think about, as you mentioned, like passions and what do you want to do and how do you want to serve?
Such a great question. So certainly, the disruption can be super obvious. Your company laid you off. It's like, okay, all right. But I also think that we really need to pay attention to our health. So if you start to find yourself feeling lethargic, if you find yourself, I call it over-Xing tendencies. So oversleeping, overeating, over drinking, over shopping, over, streaming, if you really find yourself like that's how you're getting your fulfillment. And we all know that it's, it can be fulfilling a little bit, but not necessarily for the long-term nourishment. And so when you start to see yourself falling into some patterns that are not serving you long-term, then I would say, let's look at what you're doing, how you're spending most of your time, which is often in your job. And what is it about that isn't, lighting you up? Again, your work is, because it's so much a part of who we are, and it is how we create in the world. It's how we connect in the world. And it should be fun. It should be nourishing. It should be, sustain your lifestyle, because that's how it works here in the world, and all of those things. And if you're not hopping out of bed, looking forward to your work most days, then I would say that's a sign,
Yeah. And not hopping out of bed joyfully or dreading Mondays. I mean, I think this is a symptom, unfortunately, of majority of the population. So I would say, like, okay, now unfortunately, again, most people dread Mondays. They don't enjoy waking up in the morning and looking forward to the next working day. So it's like I would say, okay, so maybe everyone needs a reset.
Well, yes. I think a lot of people do need a reset. I mean, I think that, if we're going to point a finger, I think that corporate America or corporate, and again, globally, industrial world, how it, what it values is not what I value necessarily, or most of my clients, how it, how it chases profits, how it doesn't put the human head of those things it just keeps nicking at you, until you are feeling, like you said, not looking forward to Mondays because it's the same old, and there's no joy and no real sense of purpose to what we're doing. And I think it is, a systemic problem. And so, my belief is, and what I have done for myself is to trust the universe that I will be provided for. It might sound crazy, but then choosing things that fill me up, So, I enjoy doing podcasts. If I didn't, I wouldn't do them. I wouldn't do them just because they're going to help my business, perhaps. That would not be a reason for me. Even though my social media team might be like, you should do more podcasts, you need to do more speaking. But if it doesn't align with who I am and doesn't feel like fun, I'm not going to do it just for the sake of the dollar bill, and I think that's happening. And so it's led to, and when you talk about women in tech, we know there's so much going on still with pay equity, gender equity, the, gaslighting, microaggressions, macroaggressions. Gosh, I can go on and on, co-opting ideas. And the fact that we have super smart women opting out of tech careers is abysmal, because then we keep creating products that aren't taking into account, other people's perspectives, and we're just feeding the monster, so to speak. So, I think it's important that women do what they can to continue to pursue what they're passionate about, but find a way to do it that aligns with them. So again, create their own companies. I mean, being my own boss was probably one of my best ideas, because I had a situation, I remember, so I was the top software sales rep. I was the only woman, four other guys on the team. And I remember walking into we had an office for just our product. And I walked into, our product team, and the sales team was in there, and I heard them talking about, well, the manager likes her better, or, she's got the best territory, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking to myself, or maybe I'm just better at this than you. Yeah. And so that was really sort of a light bulb moment, that I was constantly going to be having to prove myself. The carrot was going to keep moving, and I wanted to start my own business and set my own, measurements, and not have to feel like that anymore. So that's what I did. But I also think it's possible within corporate America, but it's about being very sure and confident of what you bring to the table. You can still talk about imposter syndrome being out there, big. It's not a little thing. I hear it. That's probably the most common thing people bring to me is, how do I believe in myself? How can I, against this pressure that we're getting and against all of these other micro and macro aggressions that are happening, how do I, stand up and really bring forward my gifts, abilities, skills to the benefit of the whole,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And imposter syndrome is there. It's real. And I see that also quite a lot with my clients. And the question I wanted to ask you, follow up from what you mentioned. Okay, let's say I realize that something needs to change By the way, I wanted to mention, not necessarily everyone needs to start their own business. I also started my own business, but it's not for everyone. That's okay. I mean, that's not the only answer. Resetting your career doesn't mean that you have to become an entrepreneur or start a business. You can just change what you're doing, like you did, right? I mean, you moved from being a software engineer to a recruiter to sales. I mean, you can just make changes. Now, the question I have for you, let's say I realized, and it happened to me from personal experience, I felt like, okay, I'm not where I knew that I'm not where I should be. I felt like, okay, I didn't suffer, but I felt like that's not have something else to give to the world. Let's say you are experienced that. How do I know? I mean, I learned something in university. I started doing some kind of job. And now what? I mean, I don't know anything else to do. I don't know what even I can do. I don't even know what I want. So what would you tell someone like that?
Well, I think that's why I became a coach. Is I think that it's really important to have somebody, a mentor or a coach, that you can kick ideas around with and get clear on, because, sort of equate it to being, we're so close to our own stuff, right? It's like we're in this swimming pool of problems and thoughts and all of this stuff, and we're in the center of this. And as your coach or your mentor or whoever, your good friend even, can stand on the side of the pool and be like, oh, I'm seeing very clearly your path that you cannot see. You could actually put, you don't have to tread water. You can stand up there. You're not, you can walk to the steps. You can, let me throw you a life buoy and pull you over to the side. And so I think it is used to coach myself to get clear. It just helps to have someone to bounce ideas off of. A coach doesn't give you the answers, but is really good asking some good questions to help you get more and more clear about what. And I'm a certified passion test facilitator, certified. So I have something called the passion test that we do.
Okay.
And there's other things you can do that can help, certain assessments or whatever. But I think it comes down to, making a decision that you recognize that you're out of alignment in this organization that you're in right now, either the role, the culture, the level of job, the work you're doing. It's just not in alignment any longer. And just admitting it and then saying, okay, I'm going to make change. And in that process, I'm going to figure out, what do I want to stop doing? What do I want to keep doing? And I'm going to find a coach or read a book or something to help me do that. And I'm going to keep taking action, even as I step back, pause and reflect, and then move forward, and then pause and reflect again. Like I talked about the disruption being the first stage of the change cycle. The second stage is contemplation. And the third stage is discovery. And the fourth stage is being in a career you love. And so contemplation, if you have a disruption or you make a decision even that it's time for a change, often people will jump right to action. And that can be, you can shoot yourself in the foot if you do that, because contemplation is so important. Really discovering, again, as we move through our career, we change, we grow, like you said, we learn new things. We're not who we were even a year ago, And so, taking time to pause, reflect. In my career reset program, the first thing we do is what I call connect your career dots. And we reflect on everything you bring to the table, these transferable, portable skills, but it's really about acknowledging all you have, that you have to offer. And that can go a long way to helping with imposter syndrome. But then you start to, as you're doing some of this contemplation, these smaller moves, more inner work, then you start to move into discovery. And that might require, let's say you decide, hey, I think that I might want to join us. I've been in corporate, big global organizations, and I might want to think about a scaling startup. Okay, in discovery, you might interview some people working at startups. What is it like? What don't I see? What can you tell me? What do you wish you would have known? Then you take that information and step back into stage 2 again and start contemplating and being like, now that I know this, what does that mean for me? So it is a process. It doesn't have to take a long time. It requires a commitment. And I really believe someone to partner with so that you don't get stuck in the pool of being too close to your own situation. Having someone standing there cheerleading you on, maybe holding you accountable, offering up some other perspectives can be super helpful.
Absolutely. And I like a model called Ikigai. It's a
Oh,
Japanese
Ikigai. Yeah.
Ikigai. I love it.
And
So,
Japanese philosophy. I teach that actually in the Career Reset program. We talk about the
oh,
blue zones and Ikigai.
oh, perfect,
Oh, look at
perfect.
us.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, I mean, looking at all those, passions, the skills that you have, what you have to give to the world, I really believe in that. And experimenting, as you said, like trying different things. It could be even at the same workplace that you have.
Absolutely.
Maybe you are, I mean, I'm coming from tech, from like engineering. So maybe you are in software development, but you really have a passion for defining how the product looks like, for understanding what clients need. Maybe you can partner with product and help them a little bit and
Yep.
experiment how it is like, for example, to be a product manager.
Yeah,
That's
you
like
can shadow. You can ask if you can shadow someone. I've had my clients do that. I had a really interesting, she's a director of a very large Fortune 500 company here in the United States, financial services company. And she was probably about 8 years or so away from retirement, but she was absolutely not happy, right? And so we start talking, and she's thinking that what she needs to do is quit that job and find another job. That's kind of that was the solution, seems to make the most logical sense. But as we're talking, I talk to her about infusing, like, what is it that you're passionate about? What do you really love doing? And in one of our conversations, she said, well, I can't get paid what I'm getting paid here running a cat shelter. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, she was passionate about feral cats and retraining them and finding them homes. And so that was something she kind of did on her side. And I said, well, gosh, so I see what you're saying. Yes, you want to, keep making what you're making because you have plans for the money that you're making to pay for your son's college and all these things. But also, how can we make what you're doing now more fun and more enjoyable? So we came up with this plan where she went to human resources and asked if she could start a monthly sort of like a drive where certain people in the organization could sign up for their passions and bring that into the organization. So she did a kitty litter and cat food drive, and they put bins out in different floors of the organization. And then people knew for the month of January, let's say, you could contribute to this cause, that went to these animal shelters. And it talked about her, and it talked about her passion, and it was in the newsletter. And then people started signing up and having people donate items for their passions. And what it did was completely, first of all, it opened up a door to another project team that she didn't even know about. She met someone who was a cat lover. And the next thing you know, she transferred to another project team. She's loving that. That was like 2 years ago. And so it's just, I think we often think that, again, that one idea we come up with is the only option we have. But in fact, there's ways in which we can stay where we're at and reinvigorate ourselves. Or by doing that, we recognize that it is time to say goodbye to. That is scary, but at least you've sort of thought about all of the possibilities before making the putting together your resume and updating your LinkedIn profile and doing that work, right?
absolutely. And I think one of the challenges is you don't see the possibilities.
Right.
How do you help women see what is possible for them?
Well, I think that in coaching, I do think that, I think tools are helpful. I talked about the passion test. I also have another assessment called the Energy Leadership Index Assessment that I'm certified through, that comes through the IPEC organization, but it's used a lot for leaders and aspiring leaders to sort of recognize the energy that they're bringing into things and how they can choose the productive and unproductive energies. So there's things that you can learn about yourself just through journaling, just through, reading books, answering questions. My process is through the Career Reset program, is that we do first really reflect on your career as a whole and what your abilities, skills, gifts that you bring to the table. And it isn't really, I would say it's not the career, let's say, that you might traditionally think of, oh, right after I get out of university, I've started my career. But I tell people to go all the way back. Like, what did you do? Like I, for instance, did a fundraiser when I was like 10 for the Ronald McDonald House. And I did this carnival. But in that process, one of the things that came out of that was that I really like running events. And now I run events as a coach, but that happened when I was 9. And so you can look way back. And I think going into your early childhood, often when it's, seems more, you're not connected to all the shoulds and you've got tos and you have tos, can really bring some spark back into, well, how can I connect that? Like she didn't give up anything. She actually opened up possibilities, my coaching client, and connected to her passion for cats, right? Seems crazy, but it did something. And so my process, we start with the transferable skills and what do you want to keep doing? What do you want to stop doing? Then we will do a passion test. Then we will write what I call your ideal role description. So instead of thinking, how when you're searching for a job, you're out there looking for their job description and then trying to determine how you can fit into that. And often it requires, well, as long as I bend this part of me, a little bit and lift up over here and squish a little bit here, I can fit into that mold that they're looking for, And my perspective is let's attract the jobs to us by spending time really being clear on, what would our ideal role look like? If it was your ideal role, what would it look like? Does that mean that's exactly what it's going to look like? No, but it taps into something because you're looking at it a different way. And then I spend time on thought work, mindset work, because I truly have found for my own life that my thoughts create my reality. And I can choose to believe that I'm not good enough, or I can choose to believe that exactly today, whatever I have will perfectly position me for whatever the next step is, And then we talk about energy work and we talk about intuition and looking for signs and asking for signs, because I am sort of that coach that is at the intersection of inner wisdom, outer guidance, and common sense. So I'm very practical on one hand, but I'm also, I really believe in that I can be led, sort of pulled from the inside out to whatever is next for me when I allow myself the space to hear it and to see it and to feel it, which I don't think we do enough. And I really put the focus on that in our, program. And then there's practical stuff like your LinkedIn profile and your, the plan, so we do that as well. So I think it sort of starts with, again, taking a step back, reflecting before you do this outer work, practical work. But the practical work and the inner work together is the magic. It's the real potion, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And mindset is a very, very, very important thing, right? I mean, to have the right mindset and believing in yourself, in your abilities, and that you actually can do more and you can achieve more than you currently have. And you can be something else, someone else.
Absolutely. And I have a whole process I train on. It isn't just, oh, this thought that, that there's a real process that I teach that allows you to question your thoughts, choose different ones. How do you feel? It follows the cognitive behavioral model of thoughts, feelings, actions, and results, basically. But what's your current circumstance? And if that circumstance is not your current circumstance might be, I'm in a job that doesn't fulfill me. That's the truth. But what are my thoughts about it? Oh, it'll be too hard to change. I won't get paid what I want to get paid. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have the right education. I have too much education. I hear all of these thoughts that keep us stuck, right? And then when you think those things about your circumstance, then you start to feel like, why bother? Right. And so then the actions you're taking are very small, if anything at all. And so the results that you're getting are also, you're not knocking it out of the park, let's say. So I am, if I were to pick one thing, if all I could coach on was one thing, it would be mindset.
Yeah, I'm into that. Well, Laurie, it's been so great having you here. I want to, before we end here, please share, how women can reach out to you and what kind of programs you have. Seems like you have kind of a well-defined program. So please.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I've talked about, really, there's two ways to work with me, through one-on-one coaching, which is a 6-month process, and through the Career Reset program that I think the next one is in the beginning of 2024. So look for that. You can get on the wait list. And then if you can reach out to me directly through my email, which is Laurie, Laurie, at inspiretech.com, which is also kind of tricky. It's INSPI her tech. So INSPIHERTECH.com. Also, I'm a big LinkedIn user, so connect with me out on LinkedIn, Laurie Swanson.
I'll put all the links
all that in there.
On the show notes. Yeah.
Yes, and my website, inspiretech.com. So
perfect. Thank you so much, Laurie, for being here and sharing all that wisdom.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. This is your host, Limor Bergman Gross, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Limor Bergman, and let me know, what do you think about the episodes? Feel free also to comment on Apple Podcasts and tell me, what do you want me to talk about? Which guests do you want me to bring? I really appreciate that, and have a wonderful day.